possession game. George, shot doesn't go. Biombo to Lowry. The Raptors do it. The Raptors take game 7. 89-84. It took 7 in the 6, but it was worth it.
7 and the 6, Andrew. Devlin was waiting to drop that one for like a long time, and he finally got his chance.
Oh, I hadn't heard that sound until just now. He came up with that a while ago. He was waiting on that. That's good work by him, but yeah, that's... Sorry, do you remember that time we won Game 7? Do you remember it?
Yeah.
That time was great. It was awesome.
Game 5 against New York, Game 7 now. Compare the two, man. How are you feeling today compared to that game in New York when Alvin Williams hit that? I think it was from the right corner or the right elbow. He hit that jumper to ice it.
It's an interesting dichotomy because I was 15 when that game happened. But another thing is that was the rise of the Vince Carter era. We had brought in Antonio Davis. We got actual free agents. We were signing guys. Hakeem came in. Like, that was a nothing thing, but still, it really seemed like Toronto was a team on the rise, and that Vince Carter was on his way to being the best, one of the best, maybe the best player in the NBA. Like, it seemed like the harbinger of great things to come instead of the death of the playoffs for the next 15 years. So back then it was this motion of promise, and tonight it was like, please let me believe that this will one day happen. I don't want to be a Red Sox fan. And It's really weird ends of that spectrum, but
yeah.
All right.
I remember that Alvin Williams jumper, and I remember like just jumping in my room up and down, not being able to sleep for the next 2 days because we had finally done it. It was at Madison Square Garden, huge arena. Back then, the first round series was best of 5, and just to come up with that win was just massive at the time. And you compare that to today. This was a game where I think if we had lost, it would have been way more disappointing because you're the much higher seed. You're playing at home this time around. You're expected to win. Vegas has you favored. And anything other than a win would have been just disastrous on like every single level, like an indictment on the players, the coaches. But they pulled through. I think I kind of missed the first 4 or 5 minutes of this game, so I can't comment on that. But what I saw today was a team that just knew that they were the better team and moved the ball around a lot better. The only complaints that I had in this game was the play of DeMar DeRozan, who had a good start, but other than that, made me really nervous. But guys like Kyle Lowry, Patrick Patterson, Norman Powell, again, just stepping up. And Dwyane Casey, again, going with that minus DeMar plus Norman Powell lineup in that fourth quarter, like pulled us through, man. It was just I'm so happy.
Just it feels good. You feel good about the team, not just because we finally won a Game 7, but because they won it being the team that you hoped that they could be in any stretch of the imagination. I mean, not every stretch of the imagination, but they played hard, they played focused, they played more intelligently than they had in the losses. They grinded it out. They made great adjustments. You saw Casey be willing to play different lineups and lineups that were more reflective of who was playing well at the time and how to adapt to the team you're playing. It filled you with not filled you with confidence. I mean, we're still Toronto fans, but it created confidence moving into the next round. And I felt like in that fourth quarter, instead of being scared that we were going to win, I was pretty sure we had it.
Yeah. And like one stat sums this game up: 21 assists for the Raptors. That's like they don't come near that number more often than not. And 21 assists, great ball movement all around. Big performances, JV again, 15 rebounds, an unsung hero. For me, he is the MVP of the series. If you had to give it to the Raptors, it's nobody but him because him and Biombo have controlled the boards, and by controlling the boards, they have essentially overcome the deficiencies of their two-star players who continue to have like bad games. Kyle Lowry 5 for 14, same old story, 9 assists, did a lot of other things. DeMar DeRozan 10 for 32. I think after his hot start, he was just miserable all around.
Yeah,
a bunch of bad turnovers leading to Pacer points. Like before we get to DeMar and Kyle Lowry, man, just props to JV and Biombo for, again, just dominating the glass. 11 rebounds for Biombo, 15 for JV. 49-38 is the rebounding count in favor of the Raptors. Again, this has been the story of the series, the Raptors bigs just being big.
And every time JV and Biombo went up for an offensive rebound, like the Raptors led the first round of the playoffs in second chance points and offensive rebounding by a ridiculous margin. Like, they are just dominating in that sense. And every time you see Biombo and JV going up for an offensive rebound that they don't get, it seems like you understand them not, but you certainly could call a foul on one of the two guys, mugging either one of them while they're still trying to get up there and be competitive for the rebound. Like, those guys fought in this first round.
Yeah, this was true in game 1. It was true in game 7. A rebound goes up. Either a Raptor gets it or he's pretty close to getting it. It's the Pacers have never even had like a 2-minute stretch in the series where they controlled or were able to get easy rebounds against the Raptors. And I think at the end of the day, possessions are everything, and the rebounding, like, you cannot understate that from both those guys. And also, DeMarre Carroll, I think, deserves a big mention here for
best game of playoffs for him.
Exactly. I think defensively as well. I mean, he was 1 for 6 in this game, but again, with Paul George, he was way more effective. Paul George in this game could not really, he has a tendency to get DeMarre stuck on a screen, then come around and pop a jumper. That was not there today for George, who did not have an easy time coming around that screen and creating off the bounce.
Carroll looked so much more fluid moving around than he has at any point since he got hurt for basically the first time this year. He looks healthy. He looks like he can move with freedom and explosive movements. And yeah, he was all over George. Like, him and Powell both did tremendous jobs guarding Paul George, who is an absolute superstar. Like, that guy, like the one bad mistake he made down the stretch, which wouldn't have probably mattered in the long run anyways, aside, like, that guy was just smothered by top end defenders and still would find a way to get open and just hit very difficult shots. Like, that's,
yeah,
I thought he was amazing coming into this series, and I think he's better than I thought he was before after it. Like, that guy's a champ.
Yeah, I mean, I had a tweet on my account where I said, forget about KD, man. We got to go after PG in the summer.
Sure.
Do something like that, because, I mean, I'm trying to picture this Raptor team like with Paul George on it instead of, say, DeMar DeRozan, and I'm like, yeah, the ceiling is quite high once you factor that little substitution in. Talking points for you, man. George Hill gave us trouble against Kyle Lowry. He was 8 for 11 for 19 points. That was kind of the question here. Will somebody other than Paul George step up? And George Hill did. But on the Raptors side, I think he was countered well by one Norman Powell, man. What's left to say about this guy?
I love Norm. I think we as Raptors fans are all in a really dangerous place right now where we're like the drunk guy at the bar who, like, there's a pretty girl who's kind of into them, and they're just like, you need to marry me. Like, they're just like going over the top, going to spend the rest of their life with this woman because they're so excited. And maybe that's a weird metaphor to make, but are we not all in love with Norman Powell? We all love Norman Powell, right? In an irrational way.
Oh, he's also, he also is a 3-point shooter now, 3 for 4. And all big threes. I mean, it's game 7. Every point is big, but that fourth quarter 3 from the left corner was huge. And that was the one knock against him, was that he can't really spread the floor. Once he does that, man, I mean, Terrence Ross, 5 minutes today. That, I totally get that.
Yeah, like Powell's good. Like, he is fearless in guarding anyone. He's an exceptional defender. He's so smart in the way he moves his feet guarding. Like, the only time he gets out of place defensively is in playing the team scheme, and that's just something that has to do with being a rookie. Like, as soon as he learns that, he's going to be an elite defender. And the guy can hit from 3. He handles the ball well. He pushes it hard in transition. He can go to the basket because he's much taller than you think he is once you take into account jumping and length. And yeah, like, he's good.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing left to say. I mean, I honestly don't think, like, when I stack him up against Terrence Ross, the only case you could make for Ross is that he is a better 3-point shooter. But if Powell is even up in that area, is there a place for Ross, really, is my question. But that's, go ahead.
Even if Ross is maybe capable, like, if Ross's hypothetical ceiling is higher than Powell's hypothetical ceiling, I don't think there's anyone out there who thinks that Powell won't reach a higher ceiling than Ross can. It's just it's not even just intangibles, like untangibles as well. Like, Powell, I don't know how this guy was not more heralded in the draft, because he can clearly do a lot of things at an NBA level.
Yeah, he did. He was projected to go in the first round, but then for some reason fell on draft night. That's
whatever happens for the rest of the playoffs, it's fair to say that amongst all of the nonsense offseason storylines that just keep the chatter going all summer long, overreacting to Powell one way or the other, and in every way, is going to be probably every third story that comes out of a Raptors blogger's mouth this summer.
Yeah. Okay. So Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan, 15 for 46 in this game. Not that's 32% again. They both continue to shoot like at an all-time worst. We got away with it against Indiana because of our interior dominance. Now, just briefly looking ahead to Miami, man, they got Hassan Whiteside in there. Chances are JV's not going to find it as easy as he did against Miles Turner and a fat ass Jan Mahinmi. What can we afford to? Can our two stars afford to shoot at these levels and have a chance against Miami?
I think it's important to know that they're going to be looking at different shots against Miami. So, I mean, first off, no. Like, as each team you play gets better, if you continue to have your dominant shot takers shoot 30%, you will lose in the long run. Like, you're not going to continue to offensive rebound and get to the line at a rate that's going to sustain you to win when you're shooting so poorly. But Justice Winslow is the hands-down best defender on the Miami Heat. He typically plays like 18, 19 minutes a game because they just can't space the floor with him because teams are daring him to shoot. And most of the time he finishes a game with a stat line that looks something like 1 for 6. So if they want to play Winslow big minutes and put him on DeRozan, who he's not nearly the defender that Paul George is, but Winslow is a very, very good defender, that could bung things up and you have Hassan Whiteside guarding the rim as well, which is a threat. But that really damages Miami's shooting and their ability to spread the floor and create offense for other guys. So it's going to be different from that side. And Dragic is not nearly the defender that Hill is. So while it seems like perhaps Lowry's shooting woes are coming as much from injuries as the way he's guarded because he's getting something closer to open shots, I think that he's going to be looking at much different shots in the Miami series than he was in the Pacers series for both guys, but especially for Lowry.
Yeah. For me, I think the point I made earlier about our rebounding compensating for our guards' low shooting percentage may not hold because Miami is a good rebounding team. I mean, in Game 7, they out-rebounded the Hornets 58-36. Man, that's a plus 22. And the Raptors in their Game 7 only shot 38%, but because they dominated the glass so much, because they got so many second chance points and second opportunities, were able to pull through. So to me, that's the key thing that's going to change against Miami. What do you think of the? So you're of the belief that it's a Winslow versus DeRozan?
I think they're going to move that around a lot. I think Wade will guard him a little bit. I think that Winslow will guard him a bit. Josh Richardson might see some time at him. They might put Joe Johnson on a little bit just because DeRozan has struggled against bigger guys, and they might even just be looking for the cross match a little bit. But I don't think he's going to be seeing a steady diet of just one guy the same way they did in the Pacers series.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I think it's going to be is that tougher or easier for DeRozan? What do you think?
I think it's easier. I think that Paul George is one of the 5 best perimeter defenders in the NBA, and he's 6'8", 6'9" with long arms, and that's what DeRozan struggles against. So if he's up against someone like Joe Johnson, I mean, like Joe Johnson cannot move the way he once did, even in the Brooklyn series when we saw him 2 years ago. Like if that's how they're going to try and guard DeRozan, you're going to see DeRozan probably get to the rim a fair bit or get fouled just because Johnson doesn't have the lateral movement to keep up with him. I think it's probably someone more his own size, and that's someone that might be a little easier to lose on screens or to overpower on the way to the rim, which he was just simply unable to do against the Pacers. I still think it's going to be a struggle, but not nearly to the same extent.
Yeah, I think the Heat strategy would also be more to funnel DeRozan into Hassan Whiteside, which they probably feel very comfortable doing. The Pacers didn't really have any interior shot blocking presence, so that wasn't even a chance for them. Paul George had to essentially stop DeRozan at the point of attack, so that's different as well. So quick stats: DeMar DeRozan versus Justice Winslow, or is it Justice? Justice? Justice. Okay. They only played 4 games, obviously, this season. And Winslow didn't guard him all the time, but in those 4 games, DeRozan averaged 29.3 points and shot 49%. Now that is the regular season, and regular season is the regular season.
That's good.
But that's got to be a little encouraging.
Sure, yeah, like that. It's going to be different. They're going to guard him much differently because it's a very different team. And Hassan Whiteside is a really good shot blocker, which is different than a rim defender. So he's really good at blocking your shot if you commit to that shot, but he completely abandons any idea of team defense and rotational help in the effort to block shots. So if you can get him to commit to you and drop the ball off to someone else for an easy dunk or a corner 3, like that's still available. Like I think That's Tom Haberstroh is, I think, the guy I was reading about this. Just the idea of talking about the difference between a shot blocker and a rim defender, and that Hassan Whiteside is the former and not the latter.
Yeah, and some more head-to-head stats here. Dwyane Wade, has had some of his best games against DeMar DeRozan. He's averaging 24 points against him on 54% shooting over like 19 games in his career, and even this year he had a couple decent games. Wade isn't obviously the player he was, but in a playoff series, he's obviously going to get the calls. He still has the ability to score in bunches, as we saw in Game 6 against Charlotte. By the way, have you heard the Purple Man story, the purple shirt guy story?
Yeah, I saw that. I like Dwyane's, like, he just destroyed that man and his team and that fan base. And then he was asked about him. He was like, "Yeah, I don't want to give that guy any more attention." Like, I love just the man reaction to like what do you think about that guy looking for this, the reporters looking for the soundbite, looking to get sort of story there, and he's like this guy is irrelevant. I'm not willing to speak about him. Let's move on.
Yeah. I was kind of hoping for the Hornets.
I love the dismissive move.
Man, I was hoping for a Charlotte just because I want to see the purple shirt guy. Could that be a storyline? That'd be kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, we get
Gabrielle Union just troll that guy on Twitter. That's what I want to see. And by the way, it probably has already happened.
Okay, back to Dwyane Wade, man. Dwyane Wade, how much has he got left in the tank for the Raptors, man? 24 points career against DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah, look, Wade can bring it on individual nights. Like those shots he hit against Charlotte, those were bad shots, and like he hit them though. I still have a hard time seeing Dwyane Wade carry on offense, shooting more than 45%, but like that they're pretty smart about it. Like Dwyane Wade's not taking 30 shots a game. He's not taking 25 shots a game. He's taking 16, 17, 18 shots a game. And unless it's down near the stretch, he's not taking contested shots and he's not taking threes. So like Miami plays really smart. Like or at least they're capable of it. So they're not a team. They're not an exceptional team always. Like just like our series, like in that 7-game series, when they lost. Like they got beaten up a fair bit by Charlotte. And in the games they won, they did things like they're not going to do again, like shoot 75% for the first 3 quarters. So Miami's certainly a beatable team. It's a very different team though. And I think that if you attack them correctly and defend them correctly, it could go well. But do you fear Wade? I don't like the idea of Wade taking shots. I've never cheered against Wade in a series before.
I don't like him taking shots in the fourth quarter because he's got some pedigree in him, and he does get the respect of the officials still at this age and at this stage in his career. So that scares me. The Heat scare me on multiple levels. I know you said that Dragic isn't a good defender against Lowry, so I totally get that and I agree with that. But I also think that he's also a more accomplished offensive player who has a ton of more to offer on offense than George Hill. So that's going to be a challenge for Lowry. Defensively, I think Hassan Whiteside could be a potential problem. I think guys like DeMar DeRozan, when he's not taking long twos, he kind of goes to the rim a lot and tries to finish there. That's essentially going to be a problem. So he's going to learn how to kick out from that position because Whiteside's going to be waiting for him. How well they do that is another issue. And then they have a bunch of these like long defenders, like even though they're not, like Luol Deng, not the same guy, but still like Winslow we talked about.
Deng's played the 4 for them almost exclusively at this point. Like that's a really different thing that I don't think anyone saw coming into the season. Like he's basically plays like 80+% of his minutes at the 4.
Yeah, and that which basically means that this is another series that Luis Scola probably doesn't have a role in, just because of the mobility of the Heat. And then you have guys like Wright there, like Gerald Green, obviously another good defensive player coming off the bench. So they have a lot of lanky guys that can essentially trouble the Raptors and supply a lot of ball pressure. So it's going to be imperative that the Raptors have a lot of ball handling on the court. And I think we've seen over the Pacers series that they require Lowry, Joseph, and one of like Norman Powell or an informed DeMar DeRozan to actually handle the rock and kind of run the offense. You got to have 3 ball handlers at all times.
Yeah. Like you need to be able to move it around. Like, okay, I need to get this out just as one negative thing to say, just in general, but the Raptors and DeMar without it's being an overwhelmingly negative podcast. But for the love of God, how many after timeouts plays and especially end of quarter plays are we going to see where DeMar just gets the ball up top, drives into 2 guys, and dribbles the ball off of his foot? Why are we still running this play? why it's happening at the end of quarters.
I don't even think that's Dwayne Casey calling the play. I just think Dwayne Casey's giving them carte blanche and he just does that. What pisses me off actually more than that is when he does something silly and results in a bad shot, which has a long rebound or a turnover, and the Pacers seem to immediately convert. That's
a great pacer. That was a big thing for them in this series, unquestionably.
Yeah, it's like DeMar doing something horrible, and the Pacers immediately, with like 14 seconds on the shot clock, converting already. I mean, and the Heat. Do they run the ball a lot or no? Are they as good as the Pacers when it comes in transition?
It's hard to look at season-long stats for them because the Heat played. They were basically three different teams this year. Like they were the team that they were with Bosch when Dragic showed up in the season out of shape. Then they were trying to figure themselves out sort of in the post-Bosch era. And then after they got Joe Johnson and Josh Richardson suddenly turned into Ray Allen and Spoelstra started trusting Winslow and a couple other guys a little bit more, they started really cranking up their pace and running and putting Deng at the 4. So they don't have great long-term sample size stats just because they played as three different teams. On the whole, they spent the season playing very, very slow. But I mean, like Dragic is a fast pace is a fast break player. Like that's his thing. So
yeah.
But it's the playoffs and it's Wade. So I'll try and look up here the pace stats from the first series. But typically in the playoffs they play at a very slow pace.
Yeah. Any fear of Joe Johnson at this point?
Not really. Like he can still space the floor. Like that's so. People, there's this nonsense narrative of are the Miami Heat better without Chris Bosh? And that was a lot of like blog posts and things that came out towards the end of the season because they were so much better after Bosh went down. And that really ignores the fact that Spo started playing a different style and playing more guys. He moved into the 4. They traded for Joe Johnson and Josh Richardson started shooting over 40% from 3. So when Miami really exploded is when they suddenly went from a team that I don't think they had there was some number because I remember seeing that Steph Curry shot 12 3-pointers in a game twice this season before Miami as a team did it once. Like that's how few 3-pointers they were hitting. And after the Joe Johnson trade and after they started playing different guys, they started hitting a lot of threes. So Joe Johnson's not going to carry this team, but he can definitely space the floor, and that's what makes Miami dangerous.
Yeah. What's the biggest lesson we can learn from the Pacers series heading into Miami? Is there some one takeaway we can get from our 7 games of experience against the Pacers in the first round that go, you know what, this is something we need to fix going into the second round, or is it as simple as our 2 stars have to shoot better?
I mean, if our 2 stars shoot better, then that's a big thing in and of itself. But I think that looking at the games where even when the 2 stars couldn't shoot better, instead of trying to force touches and force looks for those 2 guys, and especially DeMar, when they just worked as a team and cohesively broke down the opponent's defense and had shots that way. And even if you don't hit those shots, if you can get a shot that comes out of making the defense scramble and adjust and rotate 2-3 times, drop out of pick and roll coverage and then have to rotate out of it, then that's another reason why you rebounded so well, is because the defense is scrambling and you're set and you have a better percentage chance of getting an offensive rebound. When they actually played intelligent like that, this team is really capable of breaking down pretty much any defense they play, and that's the reason that they were so good offensively this year. I think if they take those lessons into the next series and just focus on breaking down the team defense instead of worrying about getting DeMar going or getting shots in certain spaces for certain people and just attack and break it down, then I think that will lead to that's the biggest lesson they need to take forward. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think we also have to recognize that Norman Powell is for real. And we can't treat him as a fringe player you get in for situational play. You have to treat him as a part of the 7-man, the top 7 rotation, and treat him as such. Because after Corey Joseph and perhaps Bismack Biyombo, Powell's your 8th guy, if not 7th after Joseph. I think you have to treat him like that. And I think once you play Powell, you also increase your defense. And I know I compare him to DeMar a lot because I think I think he should play more at the expense of DeMar DeRozan if DeRozan continues to struggle. Because against Miami, I think defense is even more valuable than it was against the Pacers. Because if you are able to get some easy baskets against the Heat without a set defense, we talked about their length, that's going to be paramount. I don't think the Raptors were terribly effective against the Pacers in terms of generating a lot of fast break points. I think that definitely has to increase against Miami. So more like live ball turnovers, which they could force, is going to be better against the Heat. It's going to be more important than it was against the Pacers, who you could probably score in the half court fairly easily. Against the Heat, it's not going to be as easy. So we got to generate a little more turnovers, increase the defense, even if it comes at the expense of offense.
Agreed. Like Miami was a really, really good defensive team this year, which was a bit of a surprise. And they're also a team that is well coached. They were able to adjust. Like in facing Charlotte, who was really good from three this year, like their plan in that series was basically like, we are not going to let you take threes whatsoever. You have two smaller guards who take a lot of shots from you. Those guys are going to have to go to the rim and make shots, and we will foul them if need be. And they sent the Hornets to the line a ton, but they took away good shots and they completely took away the 3-point line from them.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll have the same approach against the Raptors, but it's just an example of the fact that like this is an intelligently coached team who will have a very specific defensive game plan for the Raptors. So they're going to have to attack that game plan. They're not going to be able to just come out and make shots. You know what I mean? Like they're going to have to be smart about it.
Yeah, and I think the Raptors against the Pacers could afford to have stretches of offense where they didn't produce anything. We saw that fourth quarter stretch today where they didn't. I think the score was stuck at like 11 points for a good 5 minutes. And did you know that fourth quarter stretch where like nobody could score?
Yeah. 11. By the way, the Raptors scored 11 points in the fourth quarter tonight and won.
Yeah, in Game 7. That's
a record.
Yeah.
No winning playoff team has ever scored 11 points in a fourth quarter and won.
And you saw this in other games too, where the Pacers were I think that the Game 5 that we won in Toronto, the Pacers didn't score for like 6 minutes in the fourth quarter. They scored 9 points in the fourth quarter in total. So you have the quality opposition was not that great, and their bench wasn't that great. Their role player setup wasn't that great, where they were very prone to go into offensive droughts. Miami is very unlikely to go through those same situations. So that means that the Raptors can't afford to take a long time to react, to make the changes. They have to be more cognizant and be more aware, be quicker on these things, because they just can't afford to ride out the storm, because Miami will jump on them.
I really like the idea in this series of going strong with Valanciunas early, just because the Heat are so much better with Whiteside on the court. I think, especially in a low pace playoff environment like that, you can't really play a fast paced game in the playoffs. Like I just looked through the whole first round series. Miami played every single game but one of the first round at a far lower pace than they played all throughout the regular season, and the only game they played at a higher pace than the regular season is a game they lost. So they played Whiteside big minutes, and Whiteside is really prone to foul trouble. And because the Raptors are still effective with Biyombo out there, I think it's worth just pushing Valanciunas at him. Like Whiteside takes other centers scoring on him really personally. He tries to play them really hard, and as soon as Whiteside gets into foul trouble, he becomes an entirely different defender. He backs off. He's a guy who is really genuinely worried about his individual numbers and about him being able to be on the floor. And if you can exploit that by getting Valanciunas just to get him into foul trouble, even if that means Valanciunas gets in foul trouble, I think that's a fine trade. Like if both of those guys have 4 fouls at halftime, I'm really confident in the Raptors' ability to win that game, because that means that Whiteside is either an ineffective shot blocker or not playing whatsoever, and that's a big drop off for the Miami Heat. And it's like I think Valanciunas is better than Biyombo, but I think the Raptors can still be extremely effective with Biyombo.
Yeah. Whiteside fouled out in one game against the Hornets, and he had 2 fouls in the other games, and 4. Sorry, he had 5 fouls in the 2 other games and 4 fouls in 2 other games. So fouled out in one, and then 5-5, 4-4 in terms of fouls. So he is prone. Do you really think JV's the type of center that can actually coax Whiteside into fouling in one-on-one play? I don't. I just think JV's moves are a little too predictable. Like he doesn't have that, like so many fakes there, which draws defenders into fouls. The only time he seems to draw defenders into fouls is when he gets an offensive rebound and he goes up for a pump fake and he gets fouled. Other like throwing him in the block, doesn't happen that frequently.
Okay, but like if you're not throwing him at the block, like make sure he is really battling him for rebounds, or like give him a few touches, involve him in plays. Just because, like I have a bunch of fans who are diehard, or a bunch of friends rather, who are diehard Miami Heat fans. And I've got 3 overwhelming storylines from them this year. They have an extremely love-hate relationship with Hassan Whiteside. They think Hassan Whiteside is possibly the least intelligent human being to be as good at basketball as Hassan Whiteside is. And the third thing is that they are convinced that as soon as Hassan Whiteside gets in foul trouble, he plays defense at a completely different rate because he wants to make sure he gets his numbers and he wants to make sure he stays on the floor, and he's terrified of fouling out.
He does monitor his block numbers a lot, and I know that by following him on Snapchat. So I think if you are able to get your guards near him, he will. Like, he's not a guy. He's not JV, who's like a straight line. You know, I'll put my arms straight up and try to just defend and not block. He will go for the block, and he will do some things that you're like, dude, you had already influenced a shot. You did not need to get the block. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's totally does that. So I agree. I think if you get him off the floor, that would open things up. But I want to say easier said than done. But
Sure.
it shouldn't be that difficult.
No, I do think I think there's a storyline. Like, I think in games that Raptors do well, you'll see that they can probably get Hassan Whiteside into foul trouble. And that like DeMar, the same thing. Like, just dribble directly into him because Hassan Whiteside has no idea how verticality works.
Yeah. But Andrew, isn't it good to be talking about the second round series? Doesn't that feel good?
It's different, man. It's so different. Was this the best? Okay, rate this weekend in terms, like, as a Toronto fan. Like, here's how nonsense this is. We had a team that made it into the second round, and we got we won the draft lottery for in hockey, which I don't think either of us are super invested in. But still, the idea that we dedicated a season to tanking and it panned out. Mm-hmm. Those two things happening in the same weekend are like the fourth greatest sports moment or sports weekend of my life, and that's not great, but it feels good, so I don't care.
And the Jays are only 3 games back in the AL East.
Yeah, and they won in the bottom of the ninth today.
All
like,
right.
I feel good.
There you go. So let's like, we're kind of all over the podcast, but let's close off the Pacers series talk a little bit. 7-game series. I think lessons learned, or my main takeaways here was like, man, Paul George is freaking awesome, and it's great to see him back at his pre-injury high. Best of luck to him. I do feel that if they just had any other support, they might have actually won this series. But the Raptors, man, they won that series despite having some very, very poor performances from their 2 star players. And I take some heart in that it can't really get much worse in terms of shooting for DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. And at some point, the tide has to turn and the averages have to kick in. So that's my main final thoughts on the Pacers. And my MVP for the series, I gave mine earlier, was Jonas Valanciunas. Andrew, your turn to select the MVP for the Pacers series.
For the Pacers, like Paul George was unquestionably the best player in this series. I think that let's just go with the center position. So Valanciunas is only playing 25 minutes a game in a lot of these games. So let's include Biyombo in that and just say that whoever was playing center was so dominant and enabled the Raptors to continue to win despite their inability to shoot, that the position in general will just cheat and give it to that. As far as, I also just want to say before we close the book on the Pacers series, I know there's a lot of reaction and overreaction to this notion that DeMar fouled, I think it's Mahinmi or George on that last play, that it was a blatant foul call that wasn't called. Let's just kind of address this way. Let's say, yep, 100% DeMar fouled on that last play and it didn't get called. Also, the Raptors had like 12 more possessions than the Pacers did in this game, and they shot 10 less free throws than they normally would on any given game. Like, the Raptors had so many calls that also didn't go their way, and they did not get to the line nearly as much as they should have. And maybe you want to say the Pacers couldn't get to the line either, that's fine. But let's not pretend that this was a game that was overwhelmingly called one way or the other. Calls missed, but yeah, like that, the Pacers got away with their fair share of fouls in that whole series as well.
Andrew, I think we've been doing this podcast for a long time, and there's one thing you can know about me is that I rarely, discuss officiating and lay any blame on the officials. I think I honestly don't think they had any factor in how this series went. No. There's complaints both ways. There's nothing egregious on that they did that stands out for me. If they missed a call, they missed a call both ways. There was nothing. What was that official's name? The gambling guy. The guy they
Foster? Scott Foster?
No. The guy they indicted or whatever. Yeah.
Bob? Oh, Tim Donaghy. Yeah, there's no Tim Donaghy things going on here. We're clean. So one more award to hand out here, man. Your X factor of the series for the Raptors. I'm going to go with, I know Norman Powell is tempting. Yeah.
But I'm going to give it to Corey Joseph for being consistent in 6 of the 7 games played. I think every time he came in, his dribble penetration could not be stopped by the Pacers, and he racked up some. He got some key free throws in basically every game he played. He worked well with Jonas Valanciunas. He penetrated well. I think he was a good energizer off the bench. So I was going to give it to Norman Powell, but I think Corey Joseph over 6 of the 7 games had a greater impact than Powell, who basically was a factor in, like, I think 4 of the 7 games.
All right. Unlike you, I'm going to be a prisoner of the moment and give it to Norm. Just because I want to shout out his name and celebrate that man. God damn it, he's great. But I will also say that you're right. And in that I am being a prisoner of the moment in saying that Norm was the X factor, and I'm overvaluing the last 3 games of the series as opposed to all 7 games of the series, where if you look, like, this was 15 days, the series. Like, dear God, this series hurt me, my emotional state over a long period of time. And throughout, especially the first bunch of games, like, Corey Joseph was putting up 10, 12, 14, like, big points. He's our leading scorer in game 1 or game 2. And like, he played really consistently. He was great. There's a reason why he was on the floor through a lot of fourth quarters, and him along with Norman playing instead of DeMar in some of them. And he was tremendous and really reliable. And he was one of the few Raptors who was actually able to continue to get to the basket. And so Norm, but you're right. It's Corey Joseph.
Okay. One more award. This is more of a tongue-in-cheek one. Worst Raptor of the series.
Do you want to start this off? I haven't thought about it.
Just one, man. This is the last one. Then we'll move on.
Okay. Like, again, if we're
I'll go. I gotta go with DeMar DeRozan, man. I because I hate to rip on the guy, but he has been so trash, man. I honestly think, like, if he had taken 0 shots in this playoff series and given all his shots to anybody else, we might have won the series in 5 games. That's my opinion. When you look at his shooting line, 5 for 19, 5 for 18, 7 for 19, 4 for 15, the one good game, 10 for 22, and then 3 for 13 and 10 for 32. Dude, that's overall series shooting percentage is 32%, 15% from 3. And I'm not even talking about the absolutely just criminal defense that he's playing in every single game. There's this one clip that I had. He went for a steal in the second quarter and ended up in half court, and George Hill scored on a layup. I don't know if you know the play.
Yeah.
Like, it's been disastrous. And I think this is a guy who just cannot, I don't see, he can't possibly play any worse than he has. It's not possible for me.
Yeah, I think the thing that you're getting at with DeMar, and the reason why it's so bad, or his play is compounded because he keeps approaching the same mistakes with the same approach. Like, he learns nothing. He's like, nope. He has this mentality that I'm just going to keep playing my game and do it. I'm going to drive to the basket and leave my feet without seeing if there's anyone open or if there's 2 guys guarding me. I'm going to do that. I'm going to continue to turn around from 22 feet. I am going to take shots early in the shot clock. I'm going to try to expose a mismatch, even though George Hill is obviously not a size mismatch for me. But God damn it, I'm going to post him up from 15 feet because that hasn't worked yet. This approach where he just won't learn and he just continues to keep jacking up and not changing his approach is problematic. I think that, Luis Scola really made a run for his money as far as challenging him for least valuable Raptor in the series, just in that he demonstrated that he played an important role for us throughout the series, kind of, or the season rather, kind of, but he's almost definitely unplayable in the playoffs. And DeMar was intensely problematic through large stretches of the playoffs, but he is not unplayable. We, in fact, require him to do a lot of things for us moving forward. So I'll say Scola just because I think the worst thing you can say about someone is that they're unplayable. Okay. And DeMar just needs to stop making the same goddamn problems.
Yeah. All right, Andrew, this is a Raptors Weekly podcast, which means it's sponsored by Goldfinger Law, and Brian must be very happy today. Here's Brian telling you about Goldfinger Injury Law, and we'll come back right after this.
Get Goldfinger today.
Here's a scenario.
You've been injured in a serious accident. The doctor says your recovery could take months, maybe even years, yet your insurance company is denying your claim every step of the way. If something like this happens to you, call me, Brian Goldfinger of Goldfinger Personal Injury Law. We have offices in Toronto, London, Peterborough, and now Kitchener-Waterloo. Visit goldfingerlaw.com and get us working for you.
Get Goldfinger today.
Welcome back to part 2 of the Rapcast. The Raptors have won a playoff series, defeating the Indiana Pacers, and they're going to face the Miami Heat starting on Tuesday night. It's TNT, buddy. TNT, 8 p.m. This is what prime time looks like, Andrew.
We did it. We made it. There's no more NBA TV games. They can't reduce this.
They're not legally allowed to put us on NBA TV anymore.
No. Here's the asterisk. There is that you're gonna start watching games without the home TV crew. Are you all right with that? How do you feel?
I've been watching games without the home TV crew all season long, Andrew. It's been reddit.com/r/NBA streams if you don't have cable or want to get an alternate feed. I think Brent Barry was calling the game for Game 7, and he was ripping the Raptors offense on. He was actually counting down like, look, they wasted 6, 7, 8, 9 seconds before they made a move. What's the point of that? It was basically him just saying what every fan has been thinking for the last few games. Just like, don't, yeah.
Brent Barry is not quite as good as his brother is bad, because John Barry is just the worst. But I like Brent Barry.
Brent's cool, man. He had that slam dunk win with the warm-up jacket on.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, the free throw line didn't look nearly as good as Zach LaVine's for some reason, but it was the same distance.
Yeah, it's good.
All right, so let's continue talking about the Heat. Let's start with the starting lineup. The Raptors obviously made a move to insert Patrick Patterson back in. Not back in. They inserted Patrick Patterson in favor of Luis Scola. What do you think of that as a starting five against the Heat? Does that work well for you?
I think it's probably what we'll see out of the gate. But like we've talked about so far, like Deng is playing a massive amount of minutes at the 4 for them, and he's playing exceptional at that spot. And I think that the Raptors are going to probably have to adjust to that before the Heat kind of adjust to the potential size of the Raptors. So I think they go with what we saw down the stretch, and I think it's not unlikely that you could start to see a lineup where DeMario Carroll moves to the 4 to take away that potential inefficiency that Miami is looking to exploit with Deng.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of lineups that allow you to switch a lot. So if they have Deng at the 4, I got no issue with Carroll at the 4 and Patrick Patterson at the 5. If Whiteside's not there because Patrick Patterson can't rebound, whatever. I like lineups that can switch. So I'm a big fan of like something like Lowry, DeRozan, Powell, Carroll, and Patterson on the floor, provided we can somehow take care of the rebounding. I like that because I think the Raptors, when they're switching, that generally means they're not overhelping, because when the Raptors overhelp, that's when they pay the penalty of like bad closeouts, the opposition shooting high amount of threes and making them and getting points in the paint by driving. So I'm a big fan of switching lineups. So if they have Deng at the 4, I don't see that as a big issue, provided we can somehow take care of Hassan Whiteside. And that makes your earlier point even more valuable, is if we can get Hassan Whiteside off the floor, we'll be able to play lineups that I think we'll have greater confidence in.
Sure, and I think that that's the key there, because Hassan Whiteside can just dominate a smaller player. Like he I don't think a lot of Raptors fans have watched much Hassan Whiteside, but his post moves are a lot better than you're going to expect them to be, knowing kind of from the peripheral what the Hassan Whiteside story is. And like the dude is 7'2" and explosive. Like he is big. And Valanciunas, though he has grown a lot as a defender, and I think is underrated at this point just because people don't assume he's good at certain things. What he's really bad at is switching. So recovering to his man or switching out to a guard is something that Valanciunas is really poor at. So if you're switching and he's involved in that sense, it's a problem. But if you can get Whiteside off the floor, if Valanciunas isn't on the floor, then I think that that's something that makes the Raptors a much more dynamic defensive team, and you're right.
Yeah. And I think it's also imperative that we talked about Hassan Whiteside getting in foul trouble. I don't think we can afford Biyombo and JV getting into foul trouble, because rebounding is something that's going to be big here. So, not that Biyombo gets in a lot of foul trouble, even though he's very aggressive on the glass, he tends to be fairly disciplined. I think his discipline has increased as the season has gone on, and you don't see him picking up bad fouls. So it's a positive trend for Biyombo overall, offensively and defensively.
Yeah. I mean, like it's hard to judge. Like he's playing like 18 minutes a game, so it's hard to really judge that. But I mean, like I do think he's gotten better. I will admit that. Yes.
Yeah. So your X Factor for the series, we had X Factor awards. Corey Joseph was mine. Norman Powell was yours. Who's your guy to look out for on the Raptors as a key player?
Kyle Lowry. That sounds nonsensical because it's hard to say that the team's best player could be the X Factor, but he was not the leading scorer of. I mean, I don't think I'm wrong. Was he the leading scorer in any game of
no
winning or losing? No. So like he's just really struggling with that shot, with the elbow injury, with other things. Who knows? But if he can start hitting his shot, he has an ability to really dominate that matchup with Dragic. I think he can. He's one of the few guys in the league who can really, really trouble Dragic because he can stick with him and frustrate him. And Dragic doesn't really love to be played by someone who is physical enough to rough him up and get away with it, but also stick with him on drives. And I think that if he can take Dragic out of the series and hit his shots, because I think he's the more likely to get open looks in this series than the last, then that could be something that really propels this series forward. So I'm going to say Lowry based on the fact that we didn't see him able to be an X factor in the first round. What do you think?
No, Lowry's. I think him and DeRozan having stronger series is just a baseline requirement for us to have a chance here. But I'm gonna go with DeMarre Carroll here. I think there were some encouraging signs in Game 7 where he looked the most active, even though it's 1 for 6. That doesn't really matter. I think if Miami does have Deng at the 4 or switches their lineup around, depending on who's hot, maybe it's Joe Johnson, maybe it's Deng, maybe it's Wade, you might see DeMarre Carroll guard multiple guys who might be hot at the time. I think against the Pacers, the responsibility was it's Paul George. That's the guy you're going to guard. Against Miami, it's not so clear cut. He might be guarding the guy who's just hot on the day or who's had a hot quarter or a hot 5-minute stretch. You might see him being used in a very different way than he was against the Pacers.
That's true. Yeah, he could really be sort of the Swiss Army knife of put him where you need to put him and fix holes and, exploit inefficiencies and really just do a lot of different dynamic things, especially if he's as healthy as he looked tonight. That I don't care that he shot, what did you say, 1 for 6 tonight?
No, who cares what he's shooting? I mean, it doesn't matter.
Wow, he was fast. He was explosive. He had great lateral movement like that. I have not seen that DeMarre Carroll since October 31st.
Yeah, and not to mention that steal the turnover that Paul George had when he was trying to run it back after I think some turnover the Raptors had, he threw it out of bounds basically. Yeah, it's a turnover on Paul George, but DeMarre Carroll was in the vicinity and he had an influence in that turnover.
Yeah, this is the first DeMarre's been much better than DeMar in guarding Paul George, but tonight is the first time that he's frustrated Paul George.
Yeah.
That was evident. He was very quietly extremely effective.
So let's get to prediction time, Andrew. And I'm actually quite proud of this because I think, and I mentioned this already a few times, but I think I was the only guy in any market to call the Raptors in 7.
Yeah, I sent you and Will, I think, or Will and Blake or someone a message saying what do you think about I called the sweep this. As far as karma is concerned, the fact that this game went seven games, this series went 7 games is essentially on me for just calling the sweep. It's my fault. I'm sorry.
So we had a poll on the site just right after the game ended, and it's got over 1,000 votes at this point, and 75% of fans who have voted think the Raptors will progress. Off of that, in total, 67% of people think that it's going to be a 6 or 7 game series, so Raps in 6 or Raps in 7. The only thing that I'm prepared to say at this point, man, is that this is going to be at least a 6 or 7 game series.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think the same. I haven't really deep dived on the series. To be honest with you, the conversations you and I have just had about this matchup with Miami is literally the first time I've thought about it.
Same here. Yeah.
I was unwilling to let myself take these kinds of thoughts into account because I didn't want to do anything to jinx the next series. And by the way, if we're going to look back on the Game 5 win, I just want to do a shout out to my friend Lenny Lowith right now, who, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes down to sports fan karma, won Game 5 for us because he was watching that game and we went down deep. His wife, was taping the new girl, and he was like, you know what? I'm done watching this game. You can just watch the new girl live for all I care. So they turned the game off, went to the new girl. That's when we were down 20. The new girl ends. He switches back over to the game just in time to see Powell hammer that dunk to finally go ahead after we tied the game. His wife was like, "That's great. We'll watch the end of the Raptors game." He said, "No, turn the New Girl back on." He made her watch the New Girl again because that's what turned the game around. Refused to let her check the score and the updates, and instead sat there and watched the New Girl with her. When the New Girl was over, turned it back on, saw the Raptors had won, and tapped himself on the back as a job well done. Lenny, thank you for Game 5. We needed that to win this series. And on that note, I'm going to take Raptors in 7.
Raps in 7, eh? Yeah, that's it's tempting again to do that. Just some rationale behind this. Yeah, I don't know. I still haven't thought about this at all.
Yeah.
So I'll go with you. I'll go with Raps in 6 or 7. I'm not 100% sure. Honestly, I've only seen like 2 games of the Heat's Hornets series, which was one today, and then I saw game 2 in which the Heat looked really, really good.
Preposterously good, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really muddy. I do think like, you know how it was clear cut that the Raptors were the better team against the Pacers? Do you think it's clear cut here?
No. So like the Heat have an extremely high ceiling.
Yeah.
And I think the team that we saw in the last 15 to 20 games of the season is a very different team than we saw in the first, 65 games of the season. So I think that the Heat have demonstrated that they're a really intelligently coached team, and that they have the ability to adapt the way they play and implement that. And they have shot makers, and they have Dwyane Wade, who is one of, in my lifetime, one of the 10 or 12 best players I've ever seen play, and is just exceptional when he needs to be. I think that the Raptors are capable of being a better team, but I think the series was really evident that they're a team that still is learning, despite the fact that they won this series. And we can talk about, they get the monkey off their back, but they obviously have demonstrated that they're not able to really put their foot in the throat and really execute a game plan on a night-to-night basis. So until we see that they're a team that can bring the focus every night and just destroy teams, even if they are the better team, I don't feel great about them winning a series against a good team in 5, even 6. Like I'm going 7 just because I think the Heat are really good and well coached, and I have faith in the Raptors' ability to win, but not in their ability to do it quickly.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with pretty much most of those points. I think one thing we cannot discount is that there's been a monkey on our back, and Masai Ujiri, I think he yelled out, "There goes that monkey! There goes that monkey!" as soon as the game ended.
Yeah, kissed Casey on the head.
Yeah, and maybe not just referring to the Raptors' playoff failures of past, but also his own, because I think this is the
Sure.
I think he had lost about 6 straight playoff series, or 5 straight first round exits.
Those Nuggets teams.
Exactly. And like 3 Nuggets teams and then 2 Raptor teams. So he was sitting on a goose egg as well. So I think he's a bit relieved. I think the team is a bit relieved. I think Dwayne Casey's comments that they're going to be a little bit looser is actually bang on. I think they were quite tight in the series. And I think that might help them in the Heat series. Remember when Vince Carter, when we beat New York, we took game 1 in Philly. Game 1 in Philly, we won, and that like the way that game 1 was played versus how games 4 and 5 were played in that series were tangibly different. I remember because the Raptors just came out in game 1 fully confident, hitting their jumpers, smoking offense, and like we lost that series in game 4 when Charles Oakley decided to dribble the ball and Iverson picked his pocket and drained that 3. We would have won that series if it weren't for that one play, which swung momentum completely. But I generally remember the Raptors. I know I'm comparing eras and 15 years ago, but once a team makes that initial leap gets that monkey off their back, they're generally much more looser. And I think the Raptors will play that way, especially a guy like Kyle Lowry, who I think this kind of weighed on him. So I think he'll be better. I do think the Raptors should win this series. I think your comment about Hassan Whiteside is bang on, that we have to get him into foul trouble, because if he's playing 38 minutes and being effective as a defender, that means, what does that imply? That means JV is neutralized. That means we're not getting clean looks at the basket.
If he's playing 38 minutes and not in foul trouble, it means we're not getting to the line.
Exactly. So I think that's bang on. I'm gonna say Raptors. I don't know in 6 or 7. I think it's gonna be a long series, but I'm gonna stick with the Raptors, and I don't think the officials will have a big impact here. Now, I know with Dwayne Wade, there's always that fear that he might get the superstar calls, but I don't know. I'm going to go with the Raptors.
Yeah, like you might feel like you get superstar calls sometimes, but like they're like, look, like they lost a big game. Like, was it Game 6 that they lost because Wade didn't get the call at the end? And even like the 2-minute report from the NBA was like, no, he didn't. And in an extremely bad PR move, the NBA referee's Twitter account, which like, why does that account exist? Tweeted at Gabrielle Union, like, nope, we got the call right. It's like, what are you doing? But yeah, that's they did not give Wade that call. So like, I'm not anyone who's worried about the refs affecting the outcome of this series is being out of touch with reality. Like, that's not what it's going to come down to.
Here's what I thought was out of touch with reality from the Pacers series, and just some post-game quotes coming in. The Raptors are playing the "nobody believed in us" card.
Yeah,
which makes no sense at all. Like, just like there's Vegas believed in you. If Vegas believes in you, everybody believes in you.
Look, like we had a lot of most of the writers for RR got together this last week. I think we polled? Did anyone predict that the Pacers would win Game 7, or were we all on board for Raps?
Oh, everybody. I mean,
Everyone.
Here's some quotes from Casey. First of all, I want to see everybody's story that they wrote before the game. Casey opened during his availability. If you poke it, you better make sure it's dead. I think everybody wrote the Raptors off. I read some of the stuff. I love that because I think our guys use that as motivation, use that as fuel to fight, to scrap. I hope everyone continues to doubt us. Who is he referring to?
Yeah, like look these, like, you know, people create narratives in order to motivate themselves, and it's like you could write a story that says like DeMar is an all-star who had a great. I mean, I've written this story before. DeMar is an all-star who had a great season. He's capable of being even greater. I love him, but he does these dumb things. He needs to stop doing these dumb things. And the comment section is, "Why are you a DeMar hater?" So, I think that is, you know, you find the negativity and you focus on it because that's what gives you fuel, and that's fine. Like, I don't give a crap if Casey sounds hyperbolically out of touch with reality, because Vegas had the Raptors winning this series by a landslide. Vegas had the Raptors pegged to win Game 7. The overwhelming amount of writers, be they bloggers, mainstream writers, or just people on Twitter, had the Raptors winning Game 7. Like, it's the Pacers had, if you want to call it like momentum, because they won Game 6, but no one saw the Pacers being the winners of this series either from before or after. So yeah. But, you know, motivate yourself. Go nuts. Don't care.
And
Don't care.
Just some final thoughts from Paul George in his press conference. He commented on DeMar's shooting. He goes, DeMar is special regardless of him struggling shooting the series. He calls him one of the most poised players he's guarded. And he also gave some respect to Norman Powell. Apparently he talked to him after the game and quote-unquote gave him a couple of words. So some props from Norman Powell, from a superstar NBA player. That's got to feel good.
Yeah, I think he respects how Powell guarded him. Like, that. Norm.
And then Dwayne Casey's comparing Paul George to a young Kobe. The exact quote is, unbelievable, I'll tell you what. I remember trying to prepare for a young Kobe Bryant. This young man reminds me of trying to prepare for a young Kobe Bryant back in the Laker days when I was at Seattle. Even that last shot, I thought it was going in. So I think definitely, as you said, Andrew, the best player in this series was Paul George. And, you know, I generally essentially loathe every NBA player that's not on the Raptors. But Paul George is one guy that I can't seem to bring myself to hate, because I generally think he's a decent guy and he's tough, man.
Yeah, man, like, just a shitload of respect for that guy. Like, the thing that blew me away in this series, like, I watched the game. The Raptors played the Pacers a few years ago, and it was at the end of the year, and it was kind of like a meaningless game. The Raptors were beating up on the Pacers, and someone tried to go at, like, John Sammons or someone like that. Like, it was this long ago. Tried to go at George and talk to him a little bit. And I think George ended up scoring, like, 18 points in the final, like, 16 minutes of the game, just because he was offended by that. And he was just devastating. And the one thing I learned about George in this series that blew me away wasn't his ability to hit tough shots, wasn't his ability to create or just overcome. It was, do you know how hard, like, look at what DeMar was unable to do, which is get open. Like, DeMar could not get open. Yeah. Look at how many times Paul George, who was facing double teams and the entire focus of the defense, was able to create separation and get himself into a position to catch the ball in space. That is so hard for a superstar to do. And he is so fast and so smart and so strong and so able to just deftly see how he's being guarded and just curl perfectly off of a screen and get into space. Like, that's That's extremely hard to do, is to get as open as he got when a team is completely focusing on you. And I don't know how he did it.
Yeah, and he's a two-way superstar, man, defense and offense. And so, like, I was watching this game on a stream, and sometimes it kind of went in slow motion. It kind of froze, and instead of like just completely pausing and buffering, it just played the game in slow motion. So the 3 times it froze in slow motion, it was Paul George making a move against DeMario Carroll. It's that crossover that he pulls back and he drives to his left. It happened in slow motion 3 times, and I was like, man, DeMario played that really well, and George still was fairly easily able to get his shot off and get 2 points. And I saw that like so many times in this series that, it's like somebody smarter than me once a long time ago said, a superstar is somebody who can make contested shots. And Paul George is a guy who, in the face of pressure and a hand in his face, can knock them down. And those words always rung true with me. And I think that Paul George kind of falls into that category of player.
Yeah. Like, look, if Paul George was on the Spurs, Paul George would be like 98% of what Kawhi Leonard is. And I think Kawhi Leonard very well might be the 3rd best player in the NBA right now. So, like, that's Paul George is amazing.
Yeah. So we didn't ask for Twitter questions, but people are asking them anyways.
All right.
Let's just go. Here's a question from at Toby Saw. He goes, what do you think of KC making the right adjustments? He feels that DeMar DeRozan is more effective if he's coming off the curl, basically / dribble handoff, than a high pick and roll. Makes sense?
Yeah, sure. Like, that's like DeMar turns the ball over when he's got to dribble too long. Like, he slows the clock down. He's not a great decision maker from anywhere most of the time. And when he comes off the curl and just attack, that's true. But I mean, like, it's not like groundbreaking to say that slasher is more effective when he's able to attack with momentum in space instead of having to create that in his own. That, sure.
And final question. There's a few more, but I'm just going to pick the next one here. Is a question is how polarizing is DeMar DeRozan after this game? Is he polarizing? Is that the right word?
That's the thing. Like, it sounds like I know you and I are both taking some crap from people online where it sounds like we're just wiping our ass with DeMar. It's like, no. Like, we're not. If we call for him being benched, it's because he refuses to stop doing the same mistake. We're not like, we don't think we're better when he's on the bench. We think we're better if that's all he's going to do. If he's willing to adjust and play differently, then we are better with him. And if he can do what he can do best, then we are at our absolute best. Like, I don't really remember the question anymore, but
yeah, it's all right. I think we've talked enough about Game 6 and Game 7. So, listener, thank you. Congratulations to the listener for winning a game. Does that make sense? Congratulations. Maybe, why not?
Go nuts.
It's been a good series. It's been a fun series. It lasted 15 days, 7 games. Game 1 is Tuesday night, 8 p.m. On TNT. Listener, thank you for tuning in to a Raptors Weekly podcast. Rate us on iTunes, rate us on Stitcher. And if you want to support Raptors Republic, go to patreon.com/Raptors Republic. Once again, thank you for tuning in. Andrew, thank you for staying up late and talking about Game 7 and Game 1. And listener, thanks again. Bye-bye.
Raptors Nation, unclench your butt cheeks.